The year was 2007, driving for Ferrari. Kimi Räikkönen, who came to Formula One with one of the shortest resumes in history, became world driving champion. Now Kimi will add another paragraph to that resume. He is going NASCAR truck racing. I sort of misspoke going to commercial. I said it was going to be Ray Dunlap and Kimi Räikkönen. I meant, well, Kimi's having a nappy nap now because he's got to go test tomorrow. We'll get to that. The story has changed a whole bunch during the course of the week. What do we know as of now?
Well, what we know for sure is that Kyle Busch Motorsports has signed Kimi to do 3 races on the schedule for sure in 2011. They're going to start out at Charlotte. They'll race Martinsville in the fall, and then they'll go to Homestead, which is our final race of the season. A lot of that, Dave, has to do with the way his rally schedule fills in. There's places that they'd like to go that they can't even get to because he'll be somewhere else in other parts of the world. I'm
interested in the role that Foster Gillette plays in all this. He's George Gillette's son.
Right.
He ran the team that allegedly they didn't pay for. Ray Evernham never got his money, he said. They ran Richard Petty Motorsports to the brink of bankruptcy. This is the guy who was showing Kimi around in Homestead last year at the finale. I have a theory that there's one of 3 things. The original story in a Finnish newspaper that said he and Kimi were partners in forming their own team just got it wrong.
Right.
2, he was involved, and Kimi realized how much baggage the guy's got and went, I don't want any part of that. Or 3, and dropped him. Or 3, he's actually still involved. They've just taken him off the press release. It's a long, roundabout question. Do we know what his role is?
It's definitely not 2. Okay, here's what I can tell you. Kimi Räikkönen and Foster Gillette are personal friends, and they have business together in various forms throughout Europe. I'm sure Kimi went to Foster and said, what can you tell me about this NASCAR thing?
Sure.
But when he got involved to come to Kyle Busch Motorsports or to find a truck team to get started, to see if he likes this stock car deal, Foster Gillette had nothing to do with that. So Rick Wren at KBM, who's the general manager there, has dealt directly with Kimi and his manager and that crew and no Foster Gillette in the middle.
So what's KBM's agenda here? Kyle said yesterday he hasn't even spoken to Kimi yet.
Right.
How seriously do you think the team is taking this, and to what end?
Well,
what do they want to accomplish?
I mean, when you get an opportunity to have a driver with this kind of reputation to go fast and win, you want to see if there's, if he can do this thing. Let's talk apples and oranges here. I mean, when you go talk about Formula One or you talk about World Rally and then you talk about Camping World Trucks, I mean, it's apples and oranges. So we don't even know if he's going to like this or excel or whatever. They've got a test planned for tomorrow down at Gresham Motorsports Park. So we'll find out after tomorrow what they think. But the big picture here, Dave, is KBM is set up to expand into bigger operations. Kyle has already said that it's very likely that he'll run a full nationwide season next year for his own team. Mm-hmm. So they can do nationwide. They could have a cup team there. They could do 2 or 3 trucks. They've got expandability. So, I mean, I would say that they see a possibility for this being bigger in the future.
And, of course, he's obviously bringing the money that's making it all work. Kyle said that right up front. If it weren't for what Montoya has accomplished, this might just be a laugher.
Yeah.
But bearing in mind that Alan Henry of the Guardian newspaper jokingly refers to Kimi as the mute from the Arctic, I'm curious about communication and culture. Is this going to work?
Well, he speaks really fine English, so I think the communication is going to be there. But, boy, like I said on the apples and oranges thing, when you get in that truck for that first time, he's going to be a little bit of a fish out of water, I think. But they worked this afternoon to get his seat right. They had to rewire his helmet. Kimi wears his Hans device a little bit differently. He wears it on the outside of his belt, so they had to put in a different belt system. But he flew in today and went to the shop, and they talked about trucks, and they said, here's how you start it, and here's where the gear shift is, and those kind of things. So tomorrow, I think we'll have a much bigger explanation of whether or not
in
he
about
likes
15
trucks.
seconds. I hear there's some list that arrived from.
Well, I mean, when you have a superstar, there's a lot of things that you've got to check off and make sure that it's right. It's kind of like going to a concert and you go backstage and they want their apple sliced a different way. Those kind of things. So they had some things to do to make sure that it's going to be comfortable for him. But I think it's going to be very interesting to see his reaction after a day of testing on a short track and a big, heavy truck.
Yeah. Let's move on. Mark in Las Vegas, Nevada. Mark, what's on your mind tonight?
Hey, Dave. How you doing, Ray? I would love to see Kimi race next weekend. He's such an awesome driver, and I pulled for him in the old 7 series, Formula One series, when he was with Ferrari. Moving forward, I know he's got 3 races this year, but is there anything on the agenda for next year?
Well, Mark, they haven't gotten that far yet. I think a lot of this has to do with just how Kimi feels about getting in a truck and once he gets in competition this year. My belief is they'll add a couple of races this year. I looked at the schedule, and Chicago could be open, Michigan could be open, and I think if he gets in there and likes it, they'll probably expand it. Here's one of the biggest issues I see. They don't have a chance this year to get him in a super speedway race. They were hoping maybe to go in the ARCA race at Talladega, but that's in 2 weeks, and he's going to be doing a rally. They can't make it for the truck race when we go to Talladega in October because he's in a rally in Spain. So because of his prior commitments, he's not going to get on a big track. And to me, that's the one thing they're going to probably try to figure out in a hurry, how to help expand that knowledge. You think about going to Martinsville in the fall, and when he goes to Charlotte, that gives him that 1.5 mile feel. And then obviously Homestead at the end of the year is always a big race. So I think those 3 look good on his calendar, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it get expanded a little bit. But absolutely not. They have not talked about 2012 yet because that's just way too far out in the distance.
Well, I just hope he makes it to Vegas. I would love to see that, and I'll be there for that race.
Appreciate the call.
Also,